And hopefully he's having fun, playing a lot, and just continue to improve. In the bottom left side, though, we're looking at the main base of an old school name, someone that's been around for a long time. If I see his name, I always think of all the games I had against him when I lived in America. The man loved Lings and Banes, and I'm pretty sure he still loves Lings and Banes right now. Representing Storm Gaming, this is Bioice.
Actually, yeah, I used to play against him a lot during Lingbane as well in America when I lived there. But anyhow, spawning over in the top right, new representative of the new team on the block, Basilisk Gaming. It is Trigger.
I like how you busted out your American accent for that one, Ben.
I went with the hard R, you know, because, you know, I get this all the time, Kevin. They'll be like, oh, you're going to say water. And I'm like, mate, don't you start with your water.
Alrighty. So far, everything is standard. Bioice is the kind of guy, though, that's willing to throw in the occasional Link Flood or early Banelink bust. I've seen him do that kind of stuff in the past. I'm sure the Trigger is thinking about that, and he will probably double check to make sure that everything is standard for as long as he can check with his probe. And I'm kind of expecting Trigger to display very similar to some of the top tier European prototypes. And there's a couple of oracles into the Blink Stalkers. And obviously you can be like, oh, that's the hero style. But you know, a lot of things have now been claimed to be hero style. As far as I know, hero just spams Stalkers and Zealots of low gases. And there's obviously so many different ways you can play Oracle into Blink. You know, whether or not we go into Archons, Immortals, that kind of jazz. Or if it's just about the Blink Stalkers forever, right? That's also a possibility.
It certainly is. I feel like Trigger, at least when it came to his PvT, was maybe a little bit more linear. When it comes to PvZ, there seems to be a lot of openings, and more as each day passes with all these DT shenanigans coming back and to much array. But when I think about Trigger, I think of just a solid Protoss, actually. Like if there's a meta build out there, I think this lad's probably looked at it and been like, hey, you know what, I'm going to give that a go. Likes his Blink Stalkers in PvT, and he's going for a Stargate here in his PvZ.
Yep. No, I think you're spot on there. He obviously is a bit creative in his own way when it comes to being very aggressive, and he always likes to be out and about on the map. But when it comes to the openers and the first few minutes in whether it's PvP, PvZ, or PvT, he will just kind of look at what works best for others and then just start playing it and play it a lot. Like if you go for any adventure on the NA or European ladder, there's a good time you run into a Trigger at given moments, because this man really is putting in the hours. He's playing a lot, and that obviously explains his improvement.
Absolutely. This is a feisty little adept here, already with 2 drone kills, maybe a third. Oh, nice little drone dodge there. But so far, I would say that this adept has been worth its weight in gold, actually. Like just 2 drones, getting a little bit lost mining, some scouting as well, not bad.
Yeah, not bad at all. That's more something that you will take any day of the week. You get a good scout off, you do a bit of economic damage. Why not? Why not, Ben?
Why not indeed? Obviously, you want to keep the Adepts alive for as long as possible. They're really good for securing that third base, and Bioice so far does have an Overlord just stand outside, checking when things do move over to that third base, and he does have quite a few links there to greet this Adept and Probe. So that's a nice little shutdown by him on this third base, because look at those minerals from Trigger. But the Oracle does get some damage.
We had a Spore Crawler, but that doesn't mean that we are safe against the oracles of top tier players. They will always still go for it, just take out a couple of drones, and that's exactly what happened there. The Link is still being annoying, and they already got 1 probe, and they're gonna get probe number 2 as well. Honestly, a little bit sloppy. These links have caused a 45-second delay now on this Nexus, and obviously getting 2 workers is quite solid.
Yeah, Trigger's mineral took like 900 there, like 800 and 900, and now he pops down a Twilight, a Nexus, and 3 pylons all simultaneously. But he definitely got stunted. He's even supply blocked for the moment in time. Gets up a Fortress because he's like, hey, why not? In fact, did that... Okay, for a second there, I thought he got that probe stuck in his base, but he's up to three oracles. That is kind of the magic number. But so far, you know, a bit of damage done on both ends, really.
Bioice did go for +1 melee. We already said it in the beginning of the game. The man loves his links and banes, and he's actually pretty damn good with that. He's actually a very fast player as well, even if he's never been like a top tier pro. Remember in the old days, like when playing against him, such a nightmare. There's always groups of links running around, these morphing banelings in awkward spots, and he's thinking about taking this fight against these 3 adepts. Not too sure about it, Ben. It feels like they're very well tucked in. You might get one, maybe you get a second one, but you lose a lot of the links. And the thing is, these adepts are not that important for Trigger, because he is not following this up with resonating glaive adepts or something, right? So you're throwing away units you do need, because you are going for the +1 links, while your opponent is actually going to try to get rid of these adepts anyway. So that's not really a trade you want to take if you're Bioice.
No, I mean, you're absolutely right. Like, those adepts, they are literally made to secure that 3rd base at this point. Like, so the fact that they did just that and kind of made you waste a few units, it's a nice catch on some transferring drones there. That's something you can't afford to do. And look, no queens in position. Oh my goodness, that's damage.
Yep, one Oracle does end up falling, but that's 11 drones going down. And obviously, Bioice's economy was already not booming. Like, we like to see Zerg economies booming, so this is really starting to add up. There's a good chance we're going to find ourselves in a situation where Trigger will attack him with a bunch of Stalkers, with Blink, with +1. And you can be fine with Queens and Links, but then you need to have that insane amount of Links, right? Where you almost have 2 squads of Links, one to fight and the other one to basically wrap around once the Stalkers do Blink back. I do not believe that Bioice is going to get that many links out in the near future. He does have a lot of links looking for a potential run by, picks up another probe. He's just losing a few extra drones at home, and everything he gets the probe or 2, he ends up losing a few drones as well. And if you're behind in this matchup economically, that's not a very good pace to set.
It's a game like this that really makes you appreciate when the Zergs have their queens in all the right locations, doesn't it? Because even though this fella made a spore in every base, his queen count was kind of low. Like, it's just now reaching up to 7 with that 7th in production. But yeah, there's a reason why the top Zergs are top Zergs for a reason. It's because they know all these little moves to do with the queen's insertion, even skipping out on spores for as long as possible and still deflecting the damage. It's really impressive.
It does seem that Trigger is a little bit concerned about like making a certain move out and maybe losing a lot of units at home, because he's playing this very safe, right? He's going double Robo Bay on 3 bases. He's just warping in all the Stalkers. He's got a lot of cannons and batteries at home. It almost feels that he's overly respecting the situation that Bioice is currently in. And we're even going into Colossus, so we're going to see a bit of the style that Parting found a decent amount of success with. And I think Trap was doing it a long time ago as well. This good old Blink, Stalker, Colossus, and a bunch of sentries. It's not the sweet dream against roaches, but obviously if your force fields are good, you're going to be more than fine.
Yeah, and I mean, he did make a lot of sentries earlier, so those bad boys are getting up to maximum energy right about now, actually. But yeah, it definitely worries me a little bit. If Bioice was what I would call a normal Zerg, where they're okay playing the mid game with the nice Roachling Bane composition, especially with the Ravagers, I'm always scared for Colossus because I feel they can get overwhelmed. But so far, it feels like Bioice's economy isn't enough to get that real snowbally situation going. So maybe Trigger, he's making a good call with how much eco damage he's done. 20 drones at once, by the way. Holy crap.
Yeah, I know. That looks really cool, but that obviously means that something didn't go quite right, because normally you're not supposed to have 20 larvae just sitting there and able to morph into 20 drones, and especially not in this phase in the game where Trigger is going up to 4 bases, already has a couple of these high-tech Protoss units out, and I kind of wonder what Trigger is waiting for, maybe for extended turbulence and +2, but at that point I do think he should really go. Colossus are very good against the basic units, but you don't really want to sit back and let your opponent get hive tech, right? Because once Vipers are out, that's where it's going to be very easy for Zerg plays in general to abduct those tall boys.
Yeah, and like the supply, it's a bit deceiving for Bioice, because right now he's closing in on that 200 supply. You might be like, wow, he's got himself into a not a bad spot, right? I'm looking at that and I'm like, there is not one Baneling on the field right now, and his gas bank, it's not there. Like him trying to morph in a lot of Banes. Yeah, he doesn't have one. It's just not there.
He doesn't have a Baneling nest. Yeah.
Wow, okay.
It's hard to have Banelings without a Baneling nest, so he's really relying on these links to just do a lot of work. We do have a couple of Ravages to break force fields. Bioice is going to come in from a couple of different angles. We'll see how this fight plays out. The force fields are very pretty. The balls have been quite good as well. But we just have so many extra force fields. Two of the Colossus are low in SP and the Warp Prism went down. But even with that, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a trade-off that all the Colossus are going to go down. The Oracles will finally show up. Stalkers should obviously be able to blink away if they want to. But Trigger is just waiting for reinforcements. And I mean, there were a lot of losses there on both sides, Ben, but I think in the end, it should still be all right for Trigger.
Trigger makes this hard for himself, man. Like this army comp that he went for, you don't see that many Protosses still roll with it, but it still looks like it's probably going to be in his favor, but yeah, this is actually getting kind of close here, Kev. These Colossus have not been worth it at all, it feels like.
No, but they do soak up a lot of shots, right? And that allows these Stalkers to just fire away at these Roaches, and Stalkers do deal a little bit of extra damage against the Roaches. But yeah, Bioice is probably like, man, we've got a game on our hands. We're scrapping over here, swinging for the fences, waiting for some reinforcements, drops a few more balls, and they almost connected, but then Trigger just blinked forward. Picks off the final few Ravages. There are a lot of reinforcements on the way for the Zerg. The Oracles are going to show up one more time. They have enough energy to activate Pulsar Beam. I'm afraid it's just a few too many Stalkers to deal with. It definitely wasn't the Colossus, but the Stalkers are going to be powerful in the end. GG gets called, and the Canadian Protoss will take the 1-0 lead. But I'm with you, Ben. I don't think that was as convincing as maybe you're hoping for as a fanboy of Trigger.
No, definitely not. Like when he sat around and it was like, all right, you're taking into Colossus, I felt a lot of that money could have just been spent on the Gateway squad and just getting himself into a decent spot with the units that he had on the field already. I'm always very kind of like, I always think back to the old days of Colossus being good against everything, but the more that I see them in PvZ, the more I'm like, they have a very short window to work with, like a really short window. And when you see army compositions that, like these Roach Ravager-esque with the Ling Bane and stuff, here we had no Baneling, but still, I felt the force fields were really good from Trigger. I felt the positioning, the wraparound from Bioice was also really damn solid. But yeah, within regards to army value, I just checked out the graph there, and the Protoss army was twice the value of the Zerg one, but the resources lost tab was actually, it was worse for Trigger after that fight, which that makes me think like that probably isn't the army to go for, you know, like I can't help but feel it in my bones, you know, my little RTS bones here.
Imagine if those Lings were Banelings, and he definitely had a lot of gas. So, yeah, obviously Baneling NAS and Baneling speed is quite an investment, and you know maybe it doesn't work out all that simple, but that could have been an even better fight. It was a fun game though, where Bioice definitely did manage to get a few victories on the board. Felt that his Lings were very annoying to Trigger, and Trigger definitely. Yeah, he respected it a lot, even stayed on 3 bases, perhaps a bit longer than he was supposed to. So, fun game overall. In the end, the favorite did take the 1-0 lead, but I do go back to what I was thinking about earlier. This is not the PvZ, I think, that's making Scarlet sweat bullets, and it's going to keep her up at night. If Trigger wants to get those big victories, he really needs to just clean it up a little bit. We'll see how game 2 plays out. Cosmic Sapphire in the bottom right side. We're looking at the main base of the Canadian Zerg veteran. This is Bioice.
And the new kid on the block that's turning heads, it is Trigger. Does definitely make me wonder, because I know Max Pax also went through a phase where he was kind of prone to going Colossus and whatnot. I don't know what his PvZ necessarily looks like at the moment, because there hasn't really been any Zergs in his group, so I haven't got to see it in a little bit.
Well, Max Pax's PvZ, if that's the one you're talking about, is kind of sexy based upon his series versus Raynor last Monday. That was the first game was honestly one of the best games I've seen of Max Pax in a while, or at least when it came to just being very clean, and it was a clean game. And in the second game, I don't know why we're talking about Max Pax right now, but it's been a long day, and I do enjoy talking about Max Pax. But in the second game against Raynor, he used this strategy so cool, so awesome, that I was actually sad as a Max Pax fan that he used it on that moment in the semi-finals of a weekly tournament. That build was cool and unique enough to save for a big moment, right? The playoffs, because it was going to work, man. Long story, I don't want to give you the entire rundown, but basically he made everything, and I mean everything up to minute 7 looked like it was the good old regular Oracle into Stalkers with +1. He even made 4 Stalkers, but he didn't get Blink. He went for charge slots. Reyna likes to play upgraded Links against the Blink Stalkers. Yeah, suddenly 15 Zealots show up with +1, and Reyna didn't have Roaches ready. So the build was awesome, the execution was awesome, but now, you know, you basically threw that strategy out there, right? And Reyna will always think about it. Good chance that Sarah watches a game like that. We will all talk about it. It was honestly too cool of a build to use in the semifinals of a weekly tournament.
Depends, Kevin, because, you know, those weeklies, they're...
they matter.
Yeah, they matter. They
Ben.
matter.
Yeah,
all right.
You know what I mean.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean as well. That's like, you know, classic on Resident Sleepers, whipping out the Blink DTs, you know? And I know it's not Resident Sleepers, World of Sleepers, but yeah, those kind of moments.
Yeah, but that is a Game 5 BlizzCon quarterfinals. You know, if you have a cool build, that's definitely the moment to use a cool build. It doesn't get bigger than that. Yeah, the semifinals of the weekly. I'm not sure if that's the moment to bust out your 200 IQ big brain moves, but it's all good. The TLDR is that I do think his PVZ is pretty good, and I think you have something to look forward to, mate.
That is good to hear. Good to hear. Trigger so far just showcasing the same kind of opening, and I mean there's massive reason towards it. Although that is an early second gate, do you think it's just to secure this wall off a little bit more, or do you think it's something a little bit cheeky with that? Yeah,
could be. Well, he didn't scout a whole lot, so I don't know. Trigger has not scouted
anything actually. Yeah.
This seems like he wants to go up to 3 bases very quickly, and maybe the double gate gives him 2 warpins in case that he sends his oracles. Yeah, so he's just, I mean, it's not even ultra quick, right? If you compare it to Skillers, who took greedy really to the next level. Nexus first, 3 base, 3 minutes of a sentry, no scout. This actually looks very safe compared to what Skillers was doing. Yeah, I'm not sure, man.
Yeah, I mean, after watching that Skiller series, every Protoss play is just, you know, they all have shame all of a sudden. Skillers had 0 shame whatsoever. The 3-minute Nexus with a sentry stood there, that was awesome.
After Nexus first and no scout as well.
I mean, there's been so many cool builds from Protoss today, actually. Like, I really feel that Protoss is kind of going through a renaissance. Oh my goodness, those oracles really don't give a damn. But he's kind of hitting every drone once with just... Wait, only one of them activated Pulsar Beam, it felt like.
There's a good chance that that's what happened, but it definitely looked very derpy. Sport Crawler wasn't done yet. There was so much potential there for Trigger. Now he's greedy and he wants to go back. He's like, I know there's a bunch of low HP drones there. And that's a moment where he could have easily killed 6 or 7 workers. In the end, he only kills 2, loses an Oracle. It's not the cleanest gameplay by Trigger so far today, but I think in the end of the day for him the most important thing is just get a W on the board. Already had 1 slip up in this group, right, versus Akko. Not supposed to happen for the man that's representing that new organization, Basilisk Gaming, and is getting a lot of hype and love behind him. So maybe there's just some nerves, man. He's obviously, this is not his first season. He's been in the DreamHack Masters quite a few times now, but maybe he's putting extra pressure on himself because he knows that he got good.
Absolutely might be. I mean, these oracles so far not been worth it. Like 4 drones, what's that for 2 oracles? Absolutely not good. And Bioice, this game, complete flip around for him. He's no longer taking massive damage or losing 11 drones for 1 oracle. No, he lost 4 for 2. So now he can actually drone up like a crazy person. And Trigger, this game, it looks like he's the one that wants to move out across the map. And I feel it was more apt for the game before. But I guess he has to do something now, doesn't he?
This is something that obviously Reyna's Protoss kind of introduced to the Protoss style, where you can move out way before you have Blink, because Zerg players don't have too many units yet here. So going for these very early move outs normally is fine because you're protected against Links anyway with your oracles, but that doesn't really work if you've lost 2 out of 3 oracles. Now he loses the sentries to a couple of extra stalkers, are trailing. Links are way quicker than these stalkers without Blink, and this is just a bit of a disaster game so far for Trigger. I hate to say it, like everything that could go wrong has been done wrong, but we're getting close to that point, Ben. It really feels that almost nothing is working out for the young Canadian.
There is some good, though. Like, the amount of weird that's happened this game, like, he's been super aggressive. Bioice supply blocked at 112 supply. Not good. 10 Overlord Star all at the same time. So at least it's caused some indirect damage from just keeping Bioice busy. But I'm absolutely on board with you, Kev. Like this, I was expecting a bit cleaner play out of Trigger, because so far this seems all over the shop.
Yeah, maybe it's pressure, maybe it's nerve, or maybe it's just his PVZ that is significantly weaker than the other two matchups. I'm not sure.
I think Uko really rocked him up, man.
You're just an Uko fanboy, man.
I'm a super Uko fanboy.
I love how you're setting the complete wrong example too, making it seem like it's really cool to show up late for your match. Like, what is this kind of high school drama coming out of you? It's like, he showed up late, man. He was up 1-0. I'm such a fan. It's like, that's not cool at all, man. You know what's cool? Showing up on time. That's cool.
That is true. That is true. Like, it just seemed like such a Chad move to me, you know? Just we were all waiting for Uko to cast his game, and it's like, okay, Uko isn't here, we'll cast another series. Then they showed us that Uko was 2-1 anyway after being 0-1 forfeit down. And then just Uko's a baller, man. All right. But this game, Bioice, his drone count's way better than the previous game. Still, he doesn't want to go for that Baneling nest. So even though we talked about him liking his Ling Bane, he's kind of like, no, I don't. I'm never going them ever again. Going straight into Hydra and a Lurker in this game with a Hive already finishing.
It's so bizarre to see that Trigger has lost 1,100 resources more than Bioice. It really is like a night and day difference between the PVZs we see out of Neep, where everything that Neep does in the first few minutes is just insanely good, puts him so far ahead without any real commitment. Trigger did have some real commitment and really didn't get anything done. But now he's going to have to play a nice little late game PvZ where he is going to get a couple of disruptors, and we have a Templar archive, so he has the possibility to warp in high Templars, and it will basically come down to a dance between feedbacking the Vipers or the Vipers abducting the disruptors. And I do think that Trigger's late game should be kind of good, should be kind of sexy, but the first 9 minutes, there isn't a whole lot to get very excited over if you're a Trigger fan.
No, yeah, I like it is getting to a part of the game that never is that nice for the Protoss, as long as the Zerg, keeps you on your toes and whatnot. But Bioice definitely has to do something. And I know he's waiting for his upgrades here. He's going to be getting adaptive talons, getting the big upgrades for his ranged attacks and whatnot. Going to get the seismic spines. The creep spread is starting to spread over the middle. Could be a little bit better. But he is giving Trigger a lot of time to get together a very, very chunky boy army. And the longer this game goes, the more I do have faith in Trigger, even though he's definitely behind in this position. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I am definitely on the same page as you. He's got 6 disruptors now against an army without Vipers, and that should always be a very good place to be in. Unless the Vipers get in a very awkward spot. Where are all these disruptors? The disruptors coming in from the bottom. They're going for the jackpot shots. They are in range of the... Oh my goodness, man. I believe in Deutschland they say meine Fresse when something like this happens, as Bioice just lost the majority of his army against a couple of disruptors coming in from the bottom. The disruptors are misrallied. It's NA Clown Fiesta time, baby.
I was just thinking the same. This is maybe the most NA game I've seen in a while. Bioice just have to run back home. He's still very much ahead in supply, but his gas bank completely gone. That army shouldn't have been caught so off guard like it was, but Trigger, he feels that it's time to start taking into Stargates and whatnot. And I kind of like that from him, because he absolutely slammed a lot of resources. And now that resources lost tab kind of flipped. He's now ahead on that one.
I'm just fascinated by the fact that Bioice is the sweetest Zerg out there. And he's like, I could make Vipers, but I won't, Why would I make Vipers? Why don't I just make more Ravages and Lurkers? But there's a reason why people kind of stopped just going Lurkers initially. And that's the Disruptor, man. Disruptors are very, very, very good. As we have a Shield Battery Overcharge activated, one more Lurker does fall. Without Vipers, you don't beat an army that has 7 or 8 Disruptors unless they are terribly miscontrolled. But I do not believe that Trigger will do such a thing.
No, there's you are right. He is the sweetest, Kevin. It's like, hey, what units are really good right now? Banelings and Vipers. It's like, I'm not going to make neither. It's kind of crazy. It's almost like, why do you even get the plus melee upgrades and stuff? I know he's stuck at +1 here, but I'm worried for him, because it looks like he's playing a very kind of, very A-movie army. But once it gets to the carrier stage of the game, you can't play a movie once that begins. You really have to start becoming the finesse Zerg, which so far we're not seeing from him, are we?
Disruptor. Oh my goodness, that's so fortunate as well. A lot of Lings still make it through. It's still a very juicy shot. 11 Lings went down. Lings in the main base are actually going to be able to get quite a few probes. And that's nice. It buys time. Gets the scout off on the carriers as well. But I don't know, man. We're still not really making the right units. He's now making 5 extra lurkers. We see the carriers and he's like less anti-air, more lurkers. It's adventurous. The Hydras don't have any armor upgrades either. So even if the carriers don't have +1 air weapons, this is just not enough Hydras, man. Oh, lurkers, disruptors, another epic fight. Couple good shots though from these lurkers.
I'm loving these flanking disruptors. It reminds me of Reyna with this like 3 Ravager hit squad against Warp Prisms just coming in from a weird angle, you know. But yeah, that's a lot of lurkers. You have to treat that very, very seriously because the firepower out of them is nuts. And Bioice, he's like, you know what? We're getting double Spire behind us, which I think is a really good call by him.
Yeah, now going into Corruptors against the carriers, especially with the economy and the bank that he has, that's pretty good. But I do not understand why the man hates the Viper, man. The Viper is very good. It is, I think, by far and away the best unit that the Zerg can make in scenarios like this, especially because Trigger has not been walking around with a lot of High Templars, right? So there is a good chance that you were able to abduct. But yeah, obviously, if you have another fight like the previous one, where Trigger just gets his Disruptors all in range of the Lurkers, then I understand that he feels he doesn't need it. He's just going to try to avoid the Disruptor shots for days, and he does get a siege shot, gets a couple of big shots. The Hydras have shown up again in pretty big numbers, actually. 1 Storm will land. Zealots coming in from the left. In the end, it does feel that Trigger has a few too many reinforcements here. This is a game and a half, Benjamin.
I was just thinking, you know, if Blizzard was still looking for some cinematics of gameplay, this is one that you can show off for sure, because some of these big flanks and utter carnage chaos situations are really, really cool looking. But yeah, I'm with you, Kev. Like, you go for Hydra Lurker and you have a lot of it, just adding on a good 3 Vipers would have made dealing with this so much easier. Like, this is an army that is relying on these disruptors right now, relying on the carriers, and oh, poor Bioice.
If this man would have been able to land a few abducts a couple of times, it would have made the fights go so damn good for him. You can even wait, right, until the Novas are heading your way and then abduct the Disruptor. It's what makes the Viper so good. Bioice still has a lot of minerals, does unfortunately for him not have a whole lot of gas. He's mining from, well, he's missing 1 drone in his natural, but all the other extractors are saturated, so he's mining about as much gas as he could. What is he actually spending all the gas on? I guess Hydras and Lurkers, right?
And Corruptors at the moment. Like, he's just absolutely gone for a meaty boy army. Not a single spellcaster in the mix, you know? I mean, there's a few queens here that are going to try and shoot these interceptors, but that army from Trigger, yeah, he's going to try and battle mode it down, and I don't think you can do that. Like, the supplies, Bioice is just losing out constantly, and the supply that he has, like the eco, it's not good enough.
Yep. We have a bunch of Stalkers and Zealots trying to get lucky in the bottom side of the map, but Bioice does have Spine Crawlers and Lurkers here to defend. And then Trigger's like, all right, maybe I can get more fortunate with my main army. And you do have a few Spore Crawlers, but the Novas are heading towards the Hydras. So the Hydras are just forced to run away a lot too. We have a couple of Storms connecting with a lot of the Zerg units out here. Bioice's Spore Crawler is definitely putting in some work. The intercept count is still very high, man. This is not a fight that a couple of Corruptors are going to win. There is an Archon helping out on the ground as well. I have the feeling that Bioice's supply is just disappearing. Most of the interceptors have gone down, though. Trigger, this might be a moment to recall your carriers for a split second. He has 1 Disruptor coming in. He lands a ball, but the Disruptor gets picked off. Benjamin, what am I watching?
Mate, I have no idea. Like, this should not be as close as this. It really shouldn't, but all the interceptors are dead. There is a shield battery overcharge. I mean, Bioice should be the one getting back now and maybe pick off that carrier on the left, but what a yes to this one is. I mean, it's turning into a very enjoyable game to watch, but yeah, if you're anybody else in the group and you look at this and it's like, hey, can I beat either one of these players? The answer's yes. And I don't, when you look at Trigger, it should be kind of the opposite. You should be thinking about how clean and smooth it is. So maybe you're right, Kev. Maybe it is some nerves. Maybe it's PVZ. But yeah, definitely a tricky one.
What do I see, Ben? Look at the production tab.
Let's see. Oh, Kevin, they're coming. I mean,
they are coming. I want to get a carrier. does get a carrier. Yes, we are unfortunately now down 55 supply and we don't have a bank anymore. But Bioice has fired up a couple Vipers. We'll be able to probably land an abductor too, but yeah, I think that you're right. I think it is too late. I think Trigger's economy at this point is just a bit... It's just not even all that great, but it is obviously quite a bit better than the one of Bioice. I think at one point the storm killed a lot of the interceptors, right, in that previous fight.
I think so, yeah. I think also like fighting on top of the spores and maybe the Hydras and Queens were like A-moving. But I think Storm, I think you're right. This reminds me of the time that we told a young Italian man that, hey man, you should make Infestors. Then after losing a game for 30 minutes, he made Infestors and was like, hey, Infestors suck, bro.
Yeah, I actually still think of that too, because you still see it sometimes. There are just players that have these tendencies where they know something is good, but they are not good with it, so they don't really make it until it's too late. Then they do make a couple of desperation spellcasts, and they're like, you see, it doesn't work. And it's like, they know deep down inside that that's not the case. Yeah, I see that a few times with the Infestors still in CVT, and then they suddenly land like the sickest spawn goals on top of 17 goals, and they do kill 12, but they still lose, and they're like, see, Infestors suck too, and it's like, no.
And it's always this, see, I knew I was right, and it's like, no, you weren't. But yeah, it's funny. I ignored Ravens for so long until it was like you couldn't ignore them anymore. And it was like, wow, these things are actually pretty good. You just got to get good with them. And it takes a while. And that's always the tricky thing when you start adjusting. 5 Void Rays at once, by the way, with +3 air weapons. Trigger's having fun.
Yep, that's going to be very good against Corruptus. Bioice is now also getting fungal growth, by the way. So we went from the no spellcaster life to potentially all the spellcaster life. Lands an abduct on an Oracle, kills it. Trigger's probably like, whoa, Vipers, I'm glad they didn't make those a bit earlier, because that would have been very problematic.
It would have been super problematic, yeah. And I mean, there is still a world that if there are Infestors coming out on the field, there's one. There is a Dream, because that is a lot of air units, but holy crap, that is a meaty boy Protoss army.
2 observers.
23 Corruptors as well. Like, even though that is a large number, and the upgrades aren't bad of them either. 2-1.
No.
They still do melt to a lot of these units.
Yeah, no, there is actually a chance indeed. Like, because Trigger has been richer, but it's not like Trigger has a monstrous bank. So if he takes a bad fight near Spore Crawlers, loses the Interceptors, maybe a great Parabomb or 2 right on the Void Race, I'm gonna get some Broodlords. As Trigger is gonna go for a Mothership. I do think this is definitely the moment for Trigger to just kind of go for it, see what you can get done, because you've got +3 air weapons, right? You know you have Chrono Boost, your opponent doesn't, so there's a good chance you're ahead in the upgrades. And carriers are amazing as long as they have a 1 upgrade lead over the Corruptus armor.
Yeah, I think Trigger should just start fighting now. And I mean, obviously he's got a Mothership Core on the way, or rather a Mothership on the way. It's been a while. But yeah, like this army can start bullying around his opponent a little bit. And lovely feedbacks, actually. Super good feedbacks.
Did land 1 little fungal on the High Templars, but it seems like one of them will survive. Nope, actually all the High Templars did go down in the end, but now there's only 1 Viper left, right? So all the Infestors died. Trigger could absolutely A-move here. I understand he's maybe a bit afraid to throw it, maybe a bit paranoid about the late game that he had against Akko, but his army right now is a lot better. And if he's going to wait a little longer, then he could find himself in a situation where it actually becomes harder and harder to win.
I love that you brought up Akko out of nowhere.
Well, Akko beat Trigger, so that's not totally out of nowhere. And they had like...
You're right. I think, I've also been in this situation where I get to a late game in maybe a matchup that I'm not the most comfortable in. And when I know I'm ahead, I just kind of try and tick all the boxes, I'm like, okay, what should I do in this situation? And even though A-moving could be the way, trying to do everything else. Like, okay, I start clearing up creep with the Observer and the Zealots. I start getting the Mothership out and blah, blah, blah. So I think this can also be a moment for Trigger where he's trying to get all that correct. But I'm with you. Sometimes the right move is just to go, because that army that Bioice has isn't scary. And most importantly, it's quite immobile. Like, he's relying on quite a bit of static over there. I think if Trigger just kind of moves over to the middle of the map, starts clearing up everything else and going for the heart, the jugular, it'll work out really well for him.
That graph kind of showed it, where once upon a time there was a massive difference in army size, and now it's actually a bit closer. This is indeed the graph. Thank you, observer. We didn't have to get here, guys. This was not necessary. Now, what you can say, though, is that Triggers is playing it very safe, right? There's money on the line. He's taking the bases in the bottom left. He has even taken the gold. He will have his hands on way more resources than Bioice has in the end, so he should be fine. The thing is, he will obviously still be fine, but if Bioice does ever max out and actually has a great fight with Fungal, with Parasitic Bomb, there is a chance that no matter how rich Trigger is, that he's not actually going to have enough resources to rebuild an army like that in time. But I guess in the end, we're just playing it ultra safe, and he's just doing what he thinks is necessary to win.
Yeah, I definitely think after this series, though, he should go back to the lab a little bit and just find out what the other Protosses are feeling comfortable with, because I think we've all been there, where we can have a matchup that we're not the most fond of at the time, or it's just kind of like, hey, how come this seems to be so much easier for everybody else? And it can literally be the smallest thing, where it's like, aha, and it just fixes the whole thing for you. Because yeah, this game compared to 5 minutes ago, we are in a situation where I was kind of, I don't want to say joking that Bioice could get back into it, but he absolutely can, as long as his spellcaster usage is pretty top-notch, which is going to be tricky, honestly. It is a tricky thing to do. Holy crap, it's a lot of cannons.
Yeah. I mean, Trigger at this point is doubling the mineral income of Bioice. He is mining a bit less gas, I guess because of that rich Vespian geyser. And also Trigger, his gases are not saturated on the left side. I guess that has a lot to do with it. And he might not his own gas. He's gonna try, though, to deny this base. Lands a couple of feedbacks on the Vipers. That is exactly what he needs to do. We'll take out this hatchery again. And the infestors are gonna try to land their fungals. This is it, man. This is where we could really use a parabomb or two, but we don't have a parabomb. The mothership does fall. The fungals are massive, but the storms have been just as big.
I can imagine Trigger thinking like, hey, why'd I wait for so long? And GG is called.